Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Joining me now is Colorado State Representative Mike Lynch. Representative, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Currently, you are running for Colorado's 4th Congressional District, but let's take a step back. Let's start at the beginning. What propelled you to jump into politics?
Yeah, it all started when I was just frustrated with the fact that I was being led by or represented by people that at the end of the day, I could do a better job than them. And I just wasn't getting the representation that I felt was necessary to represent who I was and what was going on in the government.
And then now you are running for Colorado's 4th Congressional District. That's a very crowded race. Why did you decide to throw your hat in the ring here?
The same reason I got in the first place. I had learned how to do the job through being a representative here in the state of Colorado. Had figured out how to work in a minority, how to get things done in these crazy political times when it seems like there's a lot of people that are in this for the glory or in it for some other reason. And I come from a military background where I know what it is to serve. And once again, I wanted to take that fight. And I hate the word fight. I want to take those skills that I've acquired and take them on to DC.
In what aspects specifically do you feel like you're not properly represented? Where do you think you can do a better job?
Yeah, a lot of that comes from these folks that have got into this business because of politics. I got in it because I'm a small business owner. I actually am a manufacturer. I have a foundry and I make things, which is kind of rare amongst people in politics that I've discovered. And I'm the one that's been signing both sides of a paycheck for over 20 years. And I want to, I don't see enough of that business experience. I've only been in this game. I'm only in my second term. So it's not like I grew up and said, hey, I'm going to jump into this business. But and what I discovered is, if you have the right approach, if you're not just constantly toxic and so ideologically in your corner, you really can get things done. And in Colorado, we've got a 2/3 minority or 2/3 majority, and I've still been able to get things done and get good bills that impact folks that are outside of the salacious aspects of ideology and really representing people that are suffering right now with this economic condition that has been put upon us with the Biden administration. And so I take that actually from the street knowledge, nowhere near a career politician, but I came down here, applied those business principles to getting things done in the state capitol and here in Colorado. And I feel like I would be the best person to take those skills on to DC.
You're a small business owner, and I do want to get to issues that matter to voters in a moment. But before we do, small business owner economy is the top issue facing voters as we head into the election. Where do you think you can work with Democrats on to help Americans feel an ease in their wallet?
Yeah, a lot of that is through actually establishing relationships across that aisle. The neat thing about Congressional District 4 here in Colorado is that it's a really safe seat, right? This race is over after the primary. And what you can do in safe seats, and I've seen this a long time ago. I was actually the first West Point cadet to serve in the U.S. Senate as an intern, and I served under Alan Simpson. And what I learned who came from a completely safe district, right? He could do pretty much anything. And what I saw happen is that he was approached by members of the California delegation that said, hey, you know what? We've got a really nasty immigration problem. This way before the immigration problems that we have now. But I don't have the political wherewithal in that I'll get beat up in my district if I do what is the right thing. And that's what's really unique about the 4th Congressional District here in Colorado is that it is a safe seat, and there's those opportunities to find common sense solution to problems that the Dems know that need to be done, but they don't. They politically they can't get it done. So that's what I'm really excited about, the uniqueness of CD4 here in Colorado.
Congresswoman Lauren Boebert switched districts and is running now for Congress in the 4th District. What do you make of that switch?
Yeah, I know that district because I've lived in it forever. A lot of folks are not really happy about that. If her reasoning is not, it doesn't fly with folks. It's a switch for a personal reason, and her personal problems should not be borne by the citizens of CD4 here in Colorado. And it's already a safe seat. So, the Republicans are not going to lose that seat unless there's something really weird that happens here. But so there wasn't really a reason to do that. Unfortunately for her, the voters in that district realize that. They realize that this is pure salacious politics that they're sick of, and they're sick of having somebody that wants to be a Hollywood star and get a lot of media attention when really they just want to have somebody who's a good conduit between them and the Bureau of Reclamation because they have water issues. Nothing sexy or salacious, but somebody that can actually get the ear of folks in Washington, and she's just not able to do that.
She's been described as a firebrand. She's been described as far right. Politically, how do you differ from Lauren Boebert?
Yeah, ideologically, in a lot of regards, we're the same. We differ in that, I have established a reputation here in Colorado as a common sense, nuts and bolts, get it done legislator. And I love legislating. I mean, that's one of the things I discovered. It's kind of like making belt buckles, but it's the tangible result is not quite as glorious as a belt buckle, honestly. But understanding small victories and understanding how to really get things done through relationships and through being able to take that voice of the people to Washington. Her agenda it tends to be more of whatever the latest salacious accusation against national figures is. And I got to tell you, the farmers and ranchers in my district really don't care about that, but they do care that they're going to make sure that they get their water allotment the next year.
Aside from you, aside from Congresswoman Boebert, this is a crowded race. As we discussed earlier, there are a handful of Republicans running for it. And as you noted, the race is pretty much sealed unless there's a black swan incident because it is such a red district. So how do you stand out from the pack?
Yeah, well, my record kind of speaks for itself at the Capitol. I came in only 3 years ago, and I've already got my name on a bunch of very impactful legislation, and I was able to do that with a 2/3 majority on the other side. So one, my ability to do that job. Also, people know why I ran. The same reason when we first started here is that they understand that I'm here really to represent people and not myself. I will lose money. I've lost money the last few years by being in the State House, and it doesn't quite pay enough for it to be a big windfall for me. I think people understand that, through my military service and my time at West Point, that I really know how to serve people, and that's what I hope to take to D.C.
I do want to talk about the issues, but before we get into that, shortly after you announced your candidacy, news did surface about a 2022 incident. The Denver Post reported last month that you were arrested for drunk driving and possessing a gun while intoxicated back in 2022, and you stepped down as minority leader from the Colorado House of Representatives shortly after. What's your response to the past month?
Yeah, that has been such a learning experience. I just came from talking with a bunch of high school kids, and without that experience I wouldn't be able to deliver this message to them, which was we learn more from our mistakes than we ever do from our successes. And I will take this event and turn it into a learning experience where I hope to make a difference in people's lives so they don't make the same mistake I made. At the end of the day, that was a year and a half ago, and I've learned a lot from it. It has made me, honestly, a better leader in that, I've got my guard up for the pitfalls that come with this job, which is, the idea that you are somehow important and somehow uh, lifted up above other citizens. I definitely was not treated that way through this process, nor did I want to be. And I'm taking that lesson and applying it to being a better legislator.
And as you said, this incident did happen a year and a half ago, but what do you say to the constituents in Colorado's 4th District to convince them that you can serve them and represent them responsibly?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's simply going to be some people that will not vote for me because of that. And I get that, and I understand their viewpoint. I will tell you the overwhelming response I've got from folks, because it did surface that, is this a game ender? And the overwhelming support of folks that came out and said, hey, we hope that doesn't deter you. We understand you made a mistake. You owned it. You talk about it openly and not afraid to walk away from it. If I didn't have that encouragement from the voters and my donors, honestly, this would be kind of a game ender, but that's not the feedback I'm getting from the district.
So do you think this will affect the race at all?
Well, I'm sure that this will continue to come up. I'm sure that this will continue to pop up. It is January, and there are 10 candidates, and the it goes till June. So if this is the last event that occurs with a candidate, I'll be shocked. But I'm strong enough to man up to it and take responsibility for what went on there and take that lesson and apply it to good.
Let's pivot to the issues then that matter to voters. As we discussed, we dipped our toe into the economy. The economy and immigration continue to be top issues for voters. What are you specifically prioritizing on your platform?
Yeah, we see this here in Denver. Matter of fact, we were just featured nationally on how that the policy of being welcoming to, being a sanctuary city, which is really turning into a sanctuary state, has really blossomed into a big issue. So obviously that border is really got to be fixed. I hope that it's fixed before I arrive on the scene there. But if it's not, that's got to be one of the first priorities that we go after. I have personally done a whole lot of legislation with the issue of fentanyl and the effects it has had in Colorado, as Colorado is ranked 1 or 2 for fentanyl deaths in the country for the last couple of years. And I know a lot about that issue, and it's more than just an open border. It's what happens once it gets inside the border that conversation needs to occur on how we deal with it once it gets within the border. So I see myself championing legislation that will really focus on getting to the crux of the fentanyl issue and what we can do to get ahead of that before we see the next generation of very harmful synthetic opioid that starts killing our children. And it's different than just an opioid, because you don't recover from a fentanyl death. And so we've got a lot of legislation out there right now that is heartfelt and well intended to make sure that people have options for recovery, but you don't recover from a fentanyl overdose.
I have the privilege to talk to all types of lawmakers, and just yesterday I talked to 2 members of Congress, 1 Democrat, 1 Republican. Both said we need to secure the southern border. Obviously, the solutions there differ based on what party you're in. As someone who is technically an outsider, not in Congress yet, what do you think is missing from this conversation?
Yeah, boy, it's baffling, because it is such an obvious issue that needs to be addressed. And I think there's a real appetite on both sides of the aisle for this, for, no pun intended, but for that gap to be closed. And I think it has to do with what I think is kind of the overall problem in general, which is we have people there that are so worried about the next Twitter feed that they're not actually doing their job. And so I look forward to establishing those relationships with the other side of the aisle, and working with them and saying, look, I come from a district where I can do what's right because it's a safe Republican district. What can I do to help you in your district? And this is me talking to a Democrat member. What can I do that you can't do politically that I can help out? I think there's going to be some real opportunities, especially with the demographics of CD4 here in Colorado.
That's really interesting that you say that, because the conversations I had yesterday spanned just a few hours apart, and the Democrat and the Republican both said the other side is playing political football here. They're using the issue of immigration as some political tool for 2024. So specifically when it comes to immigration, where can you work with Democrats on this issue?
Yeah, well, this is a real mix between compassion, right? We're at the end of the day, we're all humans, and we see the struggles that these folks are going through. A lot of it is, if we're not going to enforce the laws that we have on the books, then we need to change them and do the bold steps of changing those. So, I think, we need to assess and hold accountable the executive branch, which is not doing the job of enforcing the laws that are created by Congress. And then when there's opportunities to modify those, we really do have to figure out, are we going to have a massive immigration free-for-all where folks are just suddenly allowed a path to citizenship? Or are we going to, contract with a bus company and send them all back? I think, both of those are kind of extreme solutions. And I think somewhere in the middle there's a conversation that needs to be had about a compromise that is compassionate yet also feasible for the United States.
And as I'm sure you know, House Republicans now are trying to impeach DHS Secretary Mayorkas. They sent that to a full House vote just this week. What's your reaction about that? Do you think that he should be impeached, or do you think that this is somewhat political theater?
There obviously is a political theater component to it, but I can't think of anybody who has failed more at their job than Mayorkas has done. And so at some point we have to hold these folks accountable. It is very clear to me that we need a change in leadership in the Homeland Security Department. So I would be behind that. Granted, does it qualify as high crimes and misdemeanors? And but at some point, when somebody is not doing their fundamentals of their job, they have to be held accountable for it. And I think this is a good step.
You did mention, is this high crimes and misdemeanors? Is it, or is this just a policy difference?
Yeah, I think if you look at the sanctity of our border and somebody that has been a big part of breaching that, I think that qualifies as a pretty high crime.
Sir, you are just a few months away from the primary. What is next for your campaign?
Yeah, it's difficult being a legislator while I've got committee coming up in 15 minutes and going out there and getting people. So what's next is continuing to get our message out. We came late into this race. I joined this race after Congresswoman Boebert got in, and so there are some people that have a head start. And it is a massive district, by the way. It's one of the largest in the country. So I've got a lot of rubber to burn up and a lot of great people to get to know across the district.
Representative Mike Lynch, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Appreciate it.